Hello, my friends. Welcome to today's Facebook Live. It is Thursday, August 7th, the first day of the month. So you know that means I'm bringing you a new One Sheet Wonder demonstration. And I think you're going to love this one just as much as you love all of the others. This One Sheet Wonder makes 14 cards, and I'll be using one of the sheets from the Floral Charms DSP pack. However, with this One Sheet Wonder and all of my One Sheet Wonders, you can recreate these cards with any paper and colors and stamps that you want, okay? Think of the One Sheet Wonder as the basis for making a set of cards, but you can certainly customize any way you like by using different papers that you already have, changing out the colors, etc. So I'm going to flip my camera around now to get started, and while I'm doing that, I would appreciate it so much if you would share this video, and you can even, if you're watching live, you can even tag your friends in the comments to invite them to join us. And if you're watching the replay later, thank you for being a replay watcher. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if that's where you're seeing this. I am involved in a challenge with other social marketing people to increase my subscribers by 10%. So I would love it if you would subscribe. Oh no, what happened? Switch back. Hold on 1 second. I don't know what is happening on my screen. Okay, there we go. Seems okay now. Okay, I think that's pretty good. As always, I am starting with a 12-inch by 12-inch sheet of designer series paper. And as I said in my opening, I am using the Floral Charm designer series paper. And I just want to show you quickly, I've demonstrated and used this paper otherwise in some recent projects. But one thing I love about this pack of paper is that, to me, it goes from summer with these gorgeous prints and color palette right into fall with these prints and a bit different color palette. And I have to say, this is, I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's right up there. If not my favorite, the top two in this pack. And the reason being is it has both that summery berry burst color as well as the Timid Tiger Cajun Craze autumn color. But for today's One Sheet Wonder demonstration, this is the sheet that I'll be using. And sometimes, I'm doing these demonstrations and I gravitate in. Are you like this? You gravitate to certain colors, pinks, purples, whatever. And occasionally somebody will tell me, not tell me, ask me or say to me, I would love to see some other colors. I'm not really into pinks. So I've chose this with those people in mind. Now, of course, first thing I wonder is how we cut our 12 by 12 designer series paper. So I'm going to start, and this is a little bit different than how I normally cut, but bear with me, you'll understand why. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a cut at 2 inches, okay? And before I deal with the rest of this large piece, I'm going to turn this 2-inch by 12-inch strip to the horizontal position, whoops, and cut it 3-inch increments. And then all 4 of these will be used with card sketch A. And as you know, I like to lay out the pieces in the same order that I cut them. So that's what I'm doing over here off to my left. Now for the next piece, I've got 10 inches by 12 inches. I'm going to turn it to the horizontal position and cut it 6 inches. That bottom part, I'm just going to set aside for right now. And this top, or what was on the left side of my cutting blade, I'm going to cut at 3 inches. Now, both of these 10-inch by 3-inch pieces are going to be cut the same. If you're more comfortable cutting one at a time, by all means do that. I am very comfortable cutting 2 pieces of DSP with my Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer. If you have a different paper trimmer, I can't say for sure if your paper and your trimmer will cut well with 2 layers, okay? So do what you think and the trimmer you're working with. So I'm gonna make sure I have these all lined up, and I'm gonna cut at, let me double check my measurements, 1.5, and then 1.5 again, time. Now, with these, I'm going to take the top 3 pieces, and that will be for one of my card Bs. And then I'll take the other 3, you notice how they match up like that? This will be for a second card made with card sketch B. Then I have these 2 pieces. I feel like I didn't cut something correctly because this should be, oh, it is correct. Okay. So these 2 that are left are 5.5 by 3 inches. And I'm going to leave these as is, and I'll be using these with card sketch C. Okay. Now going back to the other 10-inch by 6-inch piece I have, I'm going to first cut at 1.5 inches, and then 1.5 inches again. And then each of these I'm going to cut at 2-inch increments, okay? And these 3 will be for one of my card D layouts, and I'm going to do the same thing with that other 1.5 by 6-inch piece. I'm cutting it at 2-inch increments. And again, I could have stacked those 2 pieces and cut them at the same time, but those are each for card sketch D. Then I'm going to take what's left. It should be 7 inches by 6 inches, and I'm going to cut at 4.5 inches. I'll take the 4.5 inch width piece and turn it, and then cut at 3 inches. And I'll be using both of these with card sketch E. And then lastly, I have this piece that's 2.5 by 6. I'm going to turn it to the horizontal position and cut it 3 inches. And both of these 2.5 inch by 3 inch pieces I will use for card sketch F. Okay. Now, with all of that, I have all my pieces laid out in the same order that I cut. So now I'm ready to start making the 14 cards. So with these 2" by 3" pieces of DSP cut from the One Sheet Wonder, there's 4 of them. I'm going to make 4 different cards. I'm using Pretty Peacock as my card base, and that card base is 8.5 by 5.5 inches, and I scored in the middle at 4.25. On the inside, I'm using 4 inches by 5.25 inches basic white cardstock. On the front of each of these, and this is a step I went ahead and did, I try to be respectful of your time and know that when we're doing a One Sheet Wonder, the demonstration can run a little longer than most of my other ones. So I cut a piece of Pretty Peacock that measures 4 inches by 5.25, and I ran it through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine with the exposed brick embossing folder. Okay, you can use any embossing folder of your choice, or maybe you're using a different DSP and you find you have one that that works better, or you like it better, or whatever. Exposed brick embossing folder is one of my very favorites, one of my very, very favorites ever. And then I have more pieces. And here I've got 4 pieces of Cajun Craze, and these measure 2.25 by 3.25 inches. And I'm going to adhere one of my DSP pieces to each one of these. So again, my DSP pieces from the One Sheet Wonder are 2 by 3, and my Cajun Craze is 2.25 by 3.25. And then these layers I'm going to be mounting on Early Espresso cardstock. And that Early Espresso cardstock measures 2.5 by 3.5 inches. There's a whole lot of different measurements going on in a One Sheet Wonder, so you will often see me double checking my measurements as I go along. Again, the Early Espresso is 2.5 by 3.5 inches. And I'll be using these same 3 colors throughout all of the cards I make for this One Sheet Wonder. And those again are Pretty Peacock, Cajun Craze, and Early Espresso. And once I have that done, I'm going to add them to the center of my card fronts with Stampin' Dimensionals. You know I love those. You will get all of the supplies, measurements, dimensions for all of the cards I make, in addition to the One Sheet Wonder template dimensions that I already gave you throughout this whole demonstration. So if you want to rewatch or rewind, you can make the cards right along with this video. And if you're like me and prefer to have a download version or even a printed version, because I often do that, a printed version, there are two ways that you can get that One Sheet Wonder template, the 6 coordinating card sketches I use, the supply list, color photos of the cards I'm making today, and all the instructions. You can, and it'll all be in one PDF. You can place a $50 order with me during the month of August 2025, and you will get the PDF free. And this does go back to the first of the month. I know today is August 7th, and I've already had a few people order this month. And yes, they will get the PDF free with their $50 orders they placed. So it's from August 1st through August 31st. And if you don't want to place an order, you have your own demonstrator, or perhaps you are a demonstrator, but would like just the PDF tutorial, it will be available in my PDF store at stampinpiece.com. You click shop in the pink menu bar, and then you will click PDF tutorials at the bottom of the drop-down menu. And that will be $18, and I will have it up once I finish this live, okay? I was going to say one more thing. Oh, if you're purchasing just the PDF tutorial from stampinpiece.com, you have the ability to download that immediately, okay? Once you've paid for it, just look for a color box. I think it might be pink, if I remember correctly. And it'll have the name of the PDF you just purchased, and you click on that, and it should download immediately. Of course, if you have any problem, you just reach out to me, and I will certainly help you. Now, finishing out these cards, I want to show you two different ways that I've added the sentiment. The one is just the plain sentiment, a plain strip, right? And I thought, oh, that's pretty, you know, but what can I do to step it up? And I thought, why not just mount it on another punched piece or a die cut piece? Any shape behind that would be neat. So there's an extra tip for you. Okay, so for card sketch A. Going on to, let me move these. I got a whole bunch of stuff here. Card sketch B. And with this sketch, I'm making 2 happy birthday cards. And this is where I'm using those 2 sets of 1.5 by 3 inch pieces of DSP that I cut from the One Sheet Wonder. And I like to keep them in the same order as I cut them, so they fit together like a puzzle piece. They all go together, right? So again, I've got my Pretty Peacock card base, and on the front of each, I'm adding a 4 inch by 4 inch square of early espresso right to the center. Jeanette, welcome from Australia. I'm so happy you're here. Yes, I will have the PDF up on my store. The PDF is available to anybody internationally. As demonstrators, we can only sell product and classes and kits in our own market, but digital products like PDFs, we can sell internationally. So give it a half hour or so after I finish this live, and it will be up on stampinpiece.com. Now, I have made my samples already, and I've made lots of cards. where I've had to do spacing like this. So this does come pretty easily to me, and you can see I pretty much trusted myself to get those pieces on, the DSP pieces on with even margins around and between the pieces. If you're not so comfortable doing that, here's my tip for you. Use multi-purpose glue, and you might use a little more than what we normally would because we want the ability to slide the pieces around if we need to. And when I have 3 pieces and I'm playing around with spacing, I find it easiest to do the left side, then place the right side. And on each of these, I'm looking at 3 sides for equal margins. Do you see that? The top and bottom, and then the left or right side, whatever the outside edge is, okay? And then the center one, I literally am just looking side to side. I'm centering it between the 2 pieces that are already there. And give that a press when I know it's in place. If you want to be sure those are in place and not risk sliding them around as you're pressing them down, lay a silicone craft sheet over the top and then just press with a flat hand. And those pieces are not going to slide around for you. And then I'm going to take these and mount them with some dimensionals. The happy birthday sentiment I'll be putting on these along with all the other sentiments I use in this demonstration are from the Charming Day stamp set or bundle, which coordinates with this wonderful Floral Charm Designer Series paper. Oh, did I not say? I'm so sorry. Tony, I'm so sorry. So the Cajun Craze piece measures 5 inches by 3 1/4 inches. Okay. Early Espresso is 4 by 4. The Cajun Craze piece is 5 inches by 3 1/4. And then these 3 pieces, 1 1/2 by 3 inches, have all been cut from the One Sheet Wonder. Thank you, Tony, for asking that. Like I said, I want to be sure to include all the dimensions for each of the cards. Now, for these happy birthdays, I didn't even mention these. So on here, and again, the dimensions of the sentiments you will not see on the card sketches in the PDF, but you will have them in the dimensions and instructions for each card. And the reason for that is somebody can use the same card sketch, but will use an entirely different stamp set or sentiment in a different shape, size, whatever. So that's why we do it that way. But on the first card, it was 3 1/4 by 3/4 inches. And this is actually 2 stamps. 2 stamps. Hey is one, and then Can't Wait to See You Again is another. And I love that. It sounds more fun than saying, I miss you, right? So my Emily in Cincinnati will be getting one of those. Now for the happy birthday, I've cut these 2 3/4 inches by 1. And for the sentiment, that's the white, 2 3/4 by 1, and then 3 inches by 1 1/4. For the pretty peacock. I have added texture dots to my sample cards, but I'll wait till the end to do that so that we can just keep going through and focusing on each of the different card sketches. Okay, moving on to card sketch C. With card sketch C, I'm using these two pieces cut from the One Sheet Wonder. Debbie Green, thank you so much for sharing. I do appreciate that. And I'm going to mount these pieces of DSP, which measures 5.5 by 3.5 inches. Okay, 5.5 by 3.5 inches. Piece DSP going on to my second piece of 5.5 by 3.5 inch Cajun Craze. And then these will be mounted on to Early Espresso cardstock, same width of 5.5 inches, but the height of the Early Espresso is 3 3/4. And I think it's fun to mix up the layers a bit, you know, whether it be 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch. It just creates more interest on our cards. So something as you are learning and growing in your craft, that might be something you're interested in doing, is mixing up the layers and the measurements. And then these will go across the center of each of my card fronts. Again, all of the card bases are the same for this set. They're made from Pretty Peacock, 8.5 by 5.5, score at 4 1/4, and fold, and then you can use them in a vertical or horizontal position. And once again, I'm using these for happy birthday cards. We all need happy birthday cards, right? And I'm not the best with keeping up with that. I need to do better. And the Pretty Peacock here measures 3 inches by 1 1/4. And again, the white is 2 3/4 by 1 inch. But that is specific to this sentiment from the Charming Days set. If you're using something different, make those pieces whatever size you need them to be to fit your sentiment. Or your image, you might be doing an image instead. Okay. And next we are moving on to card sketch D, and we'll be making 2 cards. And these are, when I cut these from, to see where they go, my One Sheet Wonder, we started by cutting a 1.5 inch by 6 inch strip. Okay, and then I turned those strips and cut it 2 inch increments. So I want to use the pieces that are in that same strip. And I have my layers ready here. Okay, so once again, I'm using Pretty Peacock card base, and I used a piece that measures 4 inches by 5 1/4 and embossed it with the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and the exposed brick embossing folder, and added that to my card front for some interest. Now, each of these 1.5 by 2 inch pieces, I'm going to add to Cajun Craze cardstock that measures 1 3/4 by 2 1/4 inches. Okay, 1 3/4 by 2 1/4 inches for the Cajun Craze pieces. And again, I just like to keep them in the order that they've been cut. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the second set of DSP pieces. So 1.5 by 2 inch DSP onto 1 3/4 by 2 1/4 Cajun Craze cardstock. And then on the centerpiece on each set, the centerpiece on each set of 3, I'm going to mount on to Early Espresso that measures 2 by 2.5 inches. So just on that centerpiece. Early Espresso, 2 by 2.5 inches. Now I'm ready to add these pieces to my card fronts. I'll start with the first set. And when I add these pieces, I'm basically taking the 2 sides to the 2 sides of this embossed layer. Okay, so the top and left side of my layers are matching up with the top and left side of the embossed layer. And then at the bottom, it's the bottom and right sides being matched up. And then for the centerpiece, I'm going to pop this up on dimensionals. Just like that. And I'm just really centering it in on the card front. Okay, just trying to eyeball it and get a pretty even margin all the way around. And then I'll repeat that for the second card. Couple of dimensionals here. Centering that piece on my card front. And then I'm adding my sentiments. And once I put these on, I am going to take a moment to show you my tip for stamping a sentiment over the top of an image, because that may be new to some of you. I know some of you know that, and it's wonderful. You already use that, but I want to be sure to include that information for somebody that maybe is not familiar. Whoops. There we go. So I've got this piece of scrap paper, and I'll show you how I made these, because you don't want the image to overpower your sentiment, making the sentiment difficult to read. So this sentiment is "You made my day." This is one of my favorites in that set. I love the whole set. Where is it? I love the whole set. And I do tend to mix and match with that "Hey." But I love this one, "You made my day." And I will often say this to people, or somebody sends me, I don't know, a piece of mail or a card, and I might respond to them saying, "You made my day," or maybe they send me a fun or kind message by email or text, and I want to respond, and it just happens. It usually just comes out, "You made my day." So for this, and I need a piece of scrap paper, we'll use this. I've got this leaf image and I want to put it over, but again, I don't want to take away from the message. So I ink it up, I stamp off twice, and then I stamp over the top. So now I've got that pretty leaf image, but it doesn't take away from my sentiment. Okay, so stamp off twice, ink up your, or stamp the sentiment, then ink up your image stamp, stamp off twice, and then stamp over the sentiment. All right, moving right along to card sketch E. And you can see that on all of these cards, you know, the DSP does a lot of the work for making these cards beautiful, but it's also the layers of the different colors that add to the beauty of the cards. Okay, once again, pretty peacock card bases, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4 down the middle, 5 1/4 by 4 inch white on the inside. Now these are the two 4.5 inch by 3 inch pieces that I've cut from my One Sheet Wonder. And I'm going to adhere these to, each of these to a piece of Cajun Craze that is the same width, 4.5, okay, 4.5, but just a little bit taller or higher, 4.5 by 3 1/4. Okay, so the DSP is 4.5 by 3. The Cajun Craze is 4.5 by 3 1/4. So just a little bit different way of layering. And yes, you could actually just cut small strips and adhere them to the top and bottom. But I show it to you this way because I think this is the easiest way to do it. So if you're a beginner or like the easy route, this is the way to go. And I just think it's easier and faster. But if you have strips that you'd rather put there, you can certainly do that. So next, I'm going to adhere some early espresso to my card fronts. This measures 5 1/4 by 4 inches, 5 1/4 by 4. And then I've got these 5 1/4 by 1 1/4 inch strips of pretty peacock cardstock. And I'm going to put one right across the middle of each card base. Easy peasy. And I want to show you something here. This could be my card and it looks fabulous, right? But just by adding that strip of cardstock, that punch of color underneath, it kind of bumps it up to a new level. All right, so that's something to consider when you're making cards, when you're creating. maybe add a strip of cardstock or a coordinating DSP, something like that. And let's see, did I pop these up? I can't remember. I think I did. Yes, I did. I can't even believe I asked myself that. Did I pop these up? Of course I did. Dimensionals, you gotta love them. So just yesterday I realized on the 18th of this month, I will have been, or is it the 8th? No, it's the 18th. I think it's the 18th, August 18th. I'll have to double check now. August 18th, 2008 was when I became a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And who would have thought 18 years later, or is it 17? That's 17, right? 25 minus 8, that's 17 years. Getting ahead of myself. But who would have thought I would have been a demonstrator for this long? And I am telling you, it has been amazing. Hasn't always been easy, but it's been amazing. And I've learned so much. I've grown so much personally. And as a business, I have met people from around the world. I've made friends with people I never would have had it not been for joining Stampin' Up! And deciding to make it a business, to share it with other people. So pretty darn cool. Pretty darn cool. Okay, and thanks for being you. Right there in the center. And on the sentiments that I stamped and punched, the stamped part is punched with a 1.5 inch circle punch, and the pretty peacock with 1 3/4. Of course, you would adjust that size based on whatever sentiment you're using, or you might want to use a different shaped punch, or you might want to use dies. You know, be you, make it yours. And I just threw my tape cartridge on the floor. Oh, here it is. All right, and down to our last 2 cards using Card Sketch F. Again, I've got a horizontal card base that includes a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of pretty peacock that I embossed with the exposed brick embossing folder. So I'm using the 2.5 by 3 inch pieces of DSP that I cut from my One Sheet Wonder, and I'm mounting these onto Cajun Craze. Whoops, where did that come from? You know, I found some of these on my car, or in my car the other day on the driver's side car mat. So obviously I carried them from way downstairs in my studio, something's sticking to me, up the stairs and outside in the garage to my car, and they made it inside my car. I know, crazy. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who has found these dimensional backings in strange places. So my 2.5 by 3 inch pieces of DSP are mounted onto 2 3/4 by 3 1/4 inch pieces of Cajun Craze. And then they are going on to Early Espresso that measures 2 7/8 inch by 3 3/8. I'll say that again. The Early Espresso measures 2 7/8 inch and 2 7/8 by 3 3/8 inch. Oh, Sharon, that is so funny. In your songbook at church, you carried it all the way to church. See, dimensionals are a great thing, right? That's pretty funny. I love that. Okay, and believe it or not, I did not pop these up, but I do want to give you a tip about using dimensionals with this card. So I'm putting these layers towards the left side of my card front, and I'm doing it so that I have approximately the same margins around the top, left, and bottom sides. Then I want to adhere my sentiment, and these are 2 3/4 inch by 1 inch, again for the happy birthday. Use whatever sentiments you'd like. I do think these cards would make very, very beautiful thinking of you and sympathy cards. I really do. Okay. Couple of things here, and I'm just going to show you this. So I've got these layers, right? And I've got my sentiment, 2 dimensionals behind it. And this is more true if these layers were popped up, but you can still kind of see the difference. When I run my finger across it, this is a little higher than this side. It doesn't really matter that much here because my layers are flat. But if these were popped up, what I would do, you know what, let me just show you with this one. Sometimes it's easier just to show you. So pop up these layers. With dimensionals. Equal margins around the top, left, and bottom sides of my layers. And then I want to add this, okay? Now, if I add this with one of the dimensionals being on the DSP layer and one on the flat, now you can really tell the difference, okay? It's not even. There are 2 things you can do to make it even. And let me just, since I pulled that off, I want to make sure I have good dimensions. So in that case, I could do one on the left side that will go on top of the layers. And then I pulled the backing off the 1 dimensional on the right, and I put a 2nd dimensional. So now when I add this to my card front, it's straight across, it's even, okay? The other thing that you can do is, and this would kind of save on your dimensionals, you can use 1 dimensional behind the right side, and then on the left side, just add a little glue or flat adhesive, the seal, okay? Because then this piece would be flat to the layers, and this side would be popped up, and they'd be even, okay? Sharon, your comment is cracking me up. Gave you pause to consider your cleaning skills. Hey, if you could see my studio right now, especially the floor, you all would probably fall over. It is, I've got piles and mess and scraps and whew. Okay, so let's take a look back at all 14 of our cards. And as we do this, we can add some embellishments. Let me just go in order. It'll be easier that way. And again, embellishments, you choose whatever you have, whatever you like, whatever you think coordinates. You don't have to use exactly the same thing as me. That's the beauty of working with these One Sheet Wonders and the card sketches, okay? So on these, I'm just going to do a large and 2 small. These are the adhesive back textured dots that just went on the last chance list on Tuesday. Today's Thursday. I have not looked to see if they're still available. I love them. If you love them and want more of them and they're still available, I suggest you order sooner rather than later. Also, this month, Stampin' Up! Has 15% off select 2025 to 2027 in color products. And it includes more than just those in color ink pads, markers, ribbons, cardstock, the things we typically expect. It includes designer series papers that have a lot of those colors, including this one, the Floral Charm. So if you love it, now's a great time to get it on sale. There are other DSPs. There are some kits. There are some scrapbook kits. All kinds of things. So definitely take a look at that sale. And you still earn rewards on those things you purchase on sale. I think I need to squeeze a little more putty out. Who has the take your pick tool? Do you not love it? I love it, and I always make sure I have some refills of the putty on hand because that's the part that I use the most. And for this one, I'm going to do the same thing. This is my last pack of these textured dots, so we'll see how far they get me today. I'll do that, do it a little bit different. I'm not even looking at my samples to see if this is the same way I put them on my samples. You know why? Because sometimes you just go with the flow. Okay, so I've got A, B, C. And so far that's 8 cards. Okay, 3 card sketches, 8 cards. Then I've got card sketch D and this. If you like ribbons or trims, I'm sure we have some that would look awesome on these cards. The linen thread would be amazing on them as well. Okay, now this is where I'm going to show you one, but I'm not going to have enough to do both of these cards. But I'm going to use 3 small embellishments on each end of this pretty peacock strip. Something kind of fun and different. Maybe I'll put something else on that second one since I've used up all my small ones. And then I'll do this. Whoops. That's card sketch F, giving me a total of 14 cards. And look what I have left. I have exactly 3 of these embellishments left. So I'm going to make them work for me. And I'm going to do what? I'm going to put 2 here and 1 here. How's that? Okay, what do you think, people? What do you think of the August One Sheet Wonder templates, the card sketches, and the cards themselves? Okay. The cards do give you kind of an autumn feel, right? With the colors. And of course you could, and honestly, Cajun Craze isn't even a card listed for this, a color listed on this DSP. It uses Timid Tiger, but for me that was a little too bright. Some of you might like it with that punch of brightness, but I liked this more muted orange of the Cajun Craze. Okay. All right. Just very quickly again, all of the supplies, the measurements, the dimensions, how you cut the DSP, instructions for all 14 cards, everything you need to make these cards, as you just saw me make, is included in this video. If you would like the PDF tutorial, however, you can get that by placing a Stampin' Up! Order with me of $50 or more, and that is before shipping, tax, rewards, etc. And you will get this free. So $50 Stampin' Up! Order from me from August 1st through the 31st of 2025, and I will send you the PDF tutorial free, or you can purchase it on my website, stampinpiece.com, click shop, and then click PDF tutorial at the bottom of the drop-down menu. Keep in mind, if you're purchasing the PDF in my PDF store, you have the ability to download it yourself immediately after you pay. Once you pay, the next page that comes up should have a colored bar or colored box, and it will have the name of the PDF you purchased, and you click that. It's in a download column. You just click that, okay? And of course, if you have any problems getting that download, just message me, stampinpiece.com, click contact, and I will get your message and be happy to help you out. Yes, Debbie, great question. Her question is, if we order from last chance items or the in color sales items in our $50, does that still count towards a free tutorial? Absolutely. You can purchase anything in the Stampin' Up! Line, okay? Anything in the Stampin' Up! Line. If you see it online or in a catalog, it's an online exclusive, it's on last chance, it's discounted, on sale, whatever, all of it counts. All of it counts. Great question though. Okay. All right. I think I should give some cards away. So how about if you would like to have your name put into the drawing to receive one of the cards made in this Facebook Live, I'll give 3 away. Type in the comments now, hey, H-E-Y, hey. And I will pick 3 people to receive a card. All right, everybody, thanks so much for joining me today. You made my day, truly. It is an honor and a privilege and a blessing for me to be able to share what I love to do so much with all of you. Okay, have a great day, have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.